I welcome now Constanze Egger. It's my pure pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And as I said, I hope you can stay with us, and because you will be impressed also by this very practical approach. And as you rightly said, education. So just a few words. I mean, Constanze had a very international career, became a business economist, spending time in many countries. Was also a PR specialist and has an MBA in systemic organizational development. And in addition to all of that, she's a founder, was very instrumental in PATRIZIA Foundation creation, which goes back to 1999, whose vision is actually to give access to education for children and young people worldwide. And as we can see and say, this is timelier than ever. Today, 23 years later, we are 20 Kinderhaus facilities operating in Europe, Africa, Asia, South America that honor the foundation's motto, building better future. And as we discussed last time, we really in this dialogue, we want to always come up with how can we give hope? What can we do to make this a better world? Now, I would like to move to the first question for Constanze and ask her what actually led to the impactful mission and vision of this PATRIZIA Foundation to provide this education, and how did the pandemic impact the foundation's activity?
Yeah, Andrea, first of all, also thank you very much for the invitation and the opportunity to enter into conversation with you. It's a great honor for us to be able to exchange views in this wonderful round. We have a great deal of respect for the contribution you are making with the BrainTrust. Thank you very much for the world. Actually, our first project was a children's hospital in Tanzania. My brother Wolfgang visited the Benedictine mission there in 1999, which we have been supporting as a family for many, many years. The visit left a deep impression on him. He was very inspired by the heroic work of the sisters were doing there in the middle of Norway. We talked about it at that time, and it was immediately clear for me that I wanted to be involved from the beginning on. So our roots are in the healthcare. We have deep connections with this sector, and in the current crisis, we can use this strong network to help children and their families affected by the trauma of a war. In the foundation itself, we gradually shifted on our focus on education, as you told already, Andrea. We want to make a long-term impact. We believe that providing high-quality education is the best way to do this for us. By giving children access to a good education, we empower them, but put them in position to lead independent and self-determined lives. We want to impact generations, not just put on Band-Aid and leave again. No, we are there for generations. That's our family we are thinking. Our work in the last couple of years was very heavily impacted by the pandemic. You will understand, of course. At the beginning of the pandemic, all our schools and hospitals had to close. We set up immediately the Corona Fund Healthcare Education Fund, and we're able to help them to navigate through the difficult time. All our schools and hospitals are now in this year running again. At the start of this year, we thought we could leave the pandemic behind. We were hoping for a return to normality. Unfortunately, there are a number of negative long-term consequences caused by the pandemic. As the WHO reports, anxiety and depression have risen sharply, and access to mental health care is insufficient on a global level. Some girls have not returned at school at all, and this will be not very good for all of us.
Thank you, Constanze. Let's maybe then just move a bit to the war in the time reminding. So we have now this war and people are fleeing the Ukraine. Of course, women again and children are most affected. So how does your foundation deal with actually what is invisible, the mental health of mostly women and children who cross the border? How do you sort of bring in your foundation? I know I was extremely impressed because you were looking at it and you were not just talking, but you were immediately taking action. So I was very impressed about that. So tell us, how did you immediately show help for women and families to deal with the situation?
Yes, we are taking action in several ways, and most importantly, we take immediate action without being encumbered by red tape. We are providing emergency pedagogic on the ground in Poland, for example. The most important thing is to establish a secure framework and a safe space for the children. They need to have the chance to express themselves without feeling pushed or pressured. Our staff trains volunteers as well. As I mentioned, we are also working with our trusted and long-term partners like the Palantine's. We help finance their work through the new fund, the Educare Europe Fund, which Angelika, my colleague, is also with me, will tell you more about.
Great. So let me then introduce the two colleagues which you brought, Angelika, Jacobi, and Beatrice Rutishauser-Ramm. Beatrice is really a trained educationalist who has been working for more than 20 years as emergency educationalist. And then Angelika, who in fact is responsible for this Educare Europe Fund. And so if I may turn to Beatrice, so in what ways are these Kinderhaus facilities in these countries working to limit this post-traumatic stress on children? How can we bring back hope?
Yeah, every crisis has an impact on the learning, and that is because schools are closed. The children want to support their families, and they also lose the interest of learning. So it is important that they have some self-learning tools, that their intrinsic motivation to learn is continuously, because it's not the school book who is interesting them for learning, it is the real life. And when we find the mathematics, the language, all these aspects in their surrounding, then they start to open again and to find tools, and they activate their self-learning tools. They all have, we all have them in order to explore new aspects for their learning. That is actually the aspect, yeah. And these self-learning tools, these are also the ones we need to activate from the children who have caused a trauma, because they don't want to memorize. They are always afraid, if they think back on what there is memorized, that some flashbacks are coming up. So we have to create always the learning aspect in a new way, and not out of the brain, but with our hands. And that is what the joy brings back, because they say themselves, the numbers are falling out of my head, I cannot memorize again. And that is actually, we have to change our methods. And these are methods we also use generally in the child-centered learning. So we have to activate the teachers to that they know these tools. And as I say, a handful of PET bottle cups is maybe joying the children, because they can explore the mathematics again.
Wow, very nice. Angelika, you're not only a foundation board member, you are managing director of of a foundation also responsible for this Europe Fund. Tell us about it. What is this fund doing, and how can maybe the audience also participate in your mission?
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Andrea. Yes, and you mentioned it. We set up the Educare Europe Fund at the very beginning of the war in Ukraine. And for us, it was important to actually do something, not just to make a statement condemning the war. So we have already released 250,000 euro from the fund, and we do support only those activities that are fully funded from the foundation. So currently the money is going to Germany and Poland. With this money, our partner organizations can set up child-friendly spaces, for example, where children and their families experience a safe and nurturing environment. And I think this was mentioned before also from our previous speaker, how important it is that children have a safe environment. So we are setting up such a space for 200 women and children at the moment on the outskirts of Warsaw in Poland. But we see a lot of different activities also, like a Ukrainian school on Saturdays, for example, language courses for young people, and many more. So we are reaching hundreds of children, young adults, and their mothers in the different initiatives that we are supporting. And we are glad that we are able to help, and we want to do even more. So we are grateful for every contribution that allows to lessen the suffering of children and their families. Everybody who wants to help with a donation and help us make a further activity possible can easily find the Educare Europe Fund on our website.
Yeah, I think, as I said, I was quite impressed about the speed you managed to put this in place. And I think it's probably a model. I mean, you're mainly working in Poland and Germany, but it's maybe a model which we can sort of migrate globally, more globally. And I'm sure there will be many questions from the audience, which we will collect and forward to you. In closing, we are actually already at the closing time, but Constanze, just in 1 minute, what makes you hopeful for the future?
My personal guiding principle is always energy follows attention. I can focus on the negative, but then I also stop seeing the good. It's everyone's personal choice. We focus on our valuable impact and the ability to make a difference, no matter how bad the situation seems at the moment. And believe me, everyone can do something. Even if it is only that everybody from us here recommends us to 5 of their friends, for example. Even such small things sometimes have an immense effect. And that makes me feel very hopeful that networks carry us and we can influence the world in a positive way.
Thank you so much, Constanze, Angelika, and Beatrice, for your impressive work. I was really stimulated. I'm sure the audience was as well. And thank you for giving us hope that something can be done to protect or ease traumatic experiences of children, women. And we will be looking at the PATRIZIA Foundation for the activity, and in our monthly newsletter.